the rock smaller to the front. Anything else stand out to you?
There's a Reeve Soul there, which I imagine he would take above the Rock Smaulers. There's also a Graveblade Marauder. So the one major thing here, though, is that Graveblade Marauder is the same color as Reeve Soul. So that may seem like a rough thing to do in a normal draft, but when you're team drafting, that's actually ideal. Because now he's passing a pack where the best card in the pack is the Reeve Soul, and he just took a black card. So he naturally gets to cut the person to his left.
Yeah, that's a great point. We're talking about the old hook and cut earlier in the previous draft, and if Luis can pull that off, it's going to really help his entire team. Let's see what else he's going to get here. It's so funny the way that team drafting works. I know we've talked about it multiple times, but it's so much different than just like a regular draft. It confounds me. I'm so used to drafting normally.
Yeah, I mean, team draft is my favorite format by far. From the very first time I got to do it, the first time I ever team drafted in a setting where it was it actually somewhat competitive was after the tournament ended at Grand Prix San Jose in 2007, and I was actually team drafting against Luis Scott Vargas and Paul Cheon.
Wow, amazing.
We lost. Surprise, surprise. Shambling Ghoul's a nice pickup here. He finds himself passing an Undercity Troll and a Rock Smaulers here also. So passing some decent green to his left, but it's going to be hard to not take the... Ooh, okay. And I kind of like this also because by taking the Greyblade Marauder first and then passing a pack where the best card is Shambling Ghoul, he's really, really pushing the player on his left to get into green.
Yeah.
Or to get into black, rather.
That's a good point.
And, by taking a green card there, and then getting past Shaman of the pack, or, I'm sorry, oh, yeah, it is Shaman of the pack, okay.
Yeah, and in the previous draft, Luis first picked a Chandra, and as a dual-faced card, you have to reveal it to the entire table, and he was the only red drafter this time, that last time.
What are the odds of that happening?
Especially in a team draft. But Ben Stark was hooking him up. Much different start than the previous draft, but I think it's going pretty well for him.
Yeah, and this is very nice here because the Undercity Troll, definitely the best card out of that second pack. Greatblade Marauder, best card of the first pack. Past the player on his left, Reeve Soul, then Shambling Ghoul.
Yes.
As the best cards in both those packs. Now he can move in on black, and he could be rewarded pretty heavily here. People don't really play around Eyeblight Massacre in most cases, making that a very powerful card a lot of the time. But this is team draft, so the players on his on the opposing team are going to know that he has that Eyeblight Massacre. That's one of those cards that they're not going to forget about. And the other nice thing about passing the Eyeblight Massacre here is that he knows he's the elf deck. So if he has to play against the person who has the Eyeblight Massacre, that it's not even going to be that good against him if he's a green-black, because there are going to be a lot of the creatures that dodge it in his deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In addition, it continues to force the player on his left into black.
So I think both teams are going to be very, very aware of the Eyeblight Massacre that's going around in this first pack. A few nice cards in this pack for sure. The Anointer of Champions. I know we've spoken about that a ton of times.
Yeah, I'm very surprised to see that still there. There's Eva's Force Mage.
Okay.
A pretty obvious pick for the cards that he's been taking.
I think I would have considered taking the Throwing Knife there, although this cuts off the color signal a lot better, I suppose. How have you found Throwing Knife to be?
I like the card. I think it's most powerful in decks that have the ability to produce a good number of Thopters. I'm not a huge fan of it in white, black, or green decks, but when I'm playing blue or red, I find it to be quite strong because I like the ability to move it around on Goblin tokens, on Thopter tokens. That extra 2 power really gives me the ability to trade a lot.
That's a good point. We see a late Rogue's Passage here for Luis. I think that's a great pickup.
Yeah, that's very nice for him.
Passing a Turn to Frog is probably, I guess, the best card maybe in that pack. Nothing else too.
And nothing too exciting there.
I think that he's just happy to be drafting again, you know. It is the finals,
yeah.
But as we mentioned before, long day of drafting Magic and then being able to do something different, you know, at the last portion of the day definitely spices things up. Another fringy pack. Could take like a Bonded Construct of the Angel's Tomb to stay kind of colorless. Looks like that's what he's going to do.
Yeah, takes the Angel's Tomb over the Bonding Construct. I'm actually interested in that pick. I might ask him about that after the tournament ends.
I think a lot of people are on one side of the fence or the other on the Angel's Tomb. What do you think about it?
Not a huge fan.
Yeah.
I've not been very happy when I've had it in my decks.
Catacomb Slug.
Ooh, Catacomb Slug. That is right up Luis Scott Vargas' alley. He loves himself some toughness, and I can get behind that school of thought. I've won many drafts with Catacomb Slug or 4 Catacomb Slugs in my deck.
Sure. The card is very hard to attack into.
Mostly back in Return to Ravnica block. Haven't done it much in
Fair.
Magic Origins, but still.
Some more decent colorless cards for Luis here. A Guardian Automaton over the Meteorite.
He gets to pass on Infernal Scarring too, further pushing the player on his left into black here.
Sure. Yoke Docks. All right. Now the fringes of the last pack. You're not going to see anything too exciting, most likely, but I think Luis's first pack has gone pretty well so far.
Yeah, this is a pretty exciting first pack for Luis. I would be very happy to have these cards, especially in a team draft where you find yourself with dried up packs very quickly.
And the last pick looked like a calculated dismissal. All right. As you can see, as opposed to the first pack of the last draft we watched where it was kind of a mishmash of all 5 colors, Luis has a solid green-black base here. And like you mentioned, he was kind of on that Elvish theme.
Yeah, and one thing I really like about this deck also is that he has also put himself in the position to pick up a lot of good green cards and hate draft a lot in pack 2. And then in pack 3, he can really punish the player on his left for taking those black cards.
Yeah, I'm interested to see who got the Eyeblight Massacre and if they get paired up against Luis. How funny that'll be. Unless it was one of the teammates that got it, I suppose.
Yeah, I imagine the player on his left took it, especially after getting a Reeve Soul first and then Shambling Ghoul second.
Reeve Soul, of course. Premium, cheap removal in black.
Yeah, I'm actually somewhat surprised that Luis took the Greyblade Marauder over that. I guess just a 1/4 Death Touch body is so oppressively good in this format. You know, it could have no other text and still just be a slam dunk.
It's like a quick peek at a Shambling Ghoul on the top of Luis's pack number 2.
I want to say it's 50-50 that ends up being his pick out of this pack.
Fair. it is one of the best 2-drops in the format.
And he doesn't have much in the way of 2-drops just yet.
Undercity Troll being probably the best of them.
Consul's Lieutenant, quite good also.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely in the same league.
We always talk about the Topin Free Blades of the world, but I don't know. I like myself a Shambling Ghoul. At 3 toughness.
I like it too. I think the best 2-drop in the set is Harbinger of the Tides.
Fair.
It is a rare though, so not opening that one up too often.
All right, here we go for pack 3. Wow.
Ooh. Hey there's some good cards in this pack.
Very nice cards.
Yeah, there's an Avarice Dragon and a Whirler Rogue, both of which are just Billy Bonkers, if you will.
Billy Bonkers, huh? What about Starfish? Starfish gets a lot of love. Definitely not over Whirler Rogue for sure, but you never know. I think you just have to take the Whirler Rogue here. Either that or the Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that he definitely thinks the player on his right is in some combination of blue and red. So it's one of those situations where you're kind of in a bad situation whether or not you take either card. Because you remember, he saw very little in the way of playable red cards in pack 1. So there's a pretty good chance that the player on his right is currently in red, and then he's just passing them 4/4 Dragon that potentially draws them 2 cards a turn.
And here we see an exquisite Firecraft to follow up the red theme, but a lot of nice other cards in this pack. Possessed Scab, Towergeist.
Yeah.
Fetid Imp.
Towergeist, I think, is... I mean, Exquisite Firecraft is probably the best card in the pack, but Towergeist is pretty close.
Now, would you hate draft here, or would you take, like, the Towergeist?
I think both of those are kind of hate drafting.
Okay. Well, he just did take the Whirler Rogue, right? So he could move into blue still.
Yeah, I suppose he could. He does have 3 black cards already, but that's not necessarily a set-in-stone commitment. One thing that is frustrating about that is that he passed the person on his left some high-quality black intentionally to cut them in the last pack. So now he'll be opening himself up to pass that person good cards in the next pack. But it's hard to say. He did take the tower, guys. I don't know if that necessarily means that he'll be playing the card. Ooh.
Wow, another excellent pack here. Again, he's passing a lot of good red cards, but I think there are two very, very solid blue cards, the Separatist Void Mage and, again, the Sigiled Starfish.
Yeah, and I'm on the Void Mage side of the fence with this pick. I think it is quite close.
I think I would take Starfish here. Patrick is just a little bit too good. And you know they can regrow limbs in the wild. Maybe not Magic, but just a little.
Yeah, that is very true. They can regrow limbs.
All right, Separatist Void Mage. Luis is on your side of the pick. I think I saw a Ravaging Blaze in the last pack as well, so he is continuing to pass those good cards.
Yeah, past a Ravaging Blaze, an Avarice Dragon, and an Exquisite Firecraft already just in this pack. I mean, if the person on his right, his opponent, is in red, that person is going to be very, very happy with what's going on.
And again, we see more excellent red cards. A Crow Insurgent, Blazing Hellhound, Titan Strength if you really wanted. Rock Smallers, definitely a good pick here for Luis, I think.
Yeah, that kind of seems like the pick. I mean, he pretty much knows that he's going to be playing green. Wow, that's a really late Gear Crafter, too.
Yeah, I mean, the red player is definitely getting all of the rewards. He might hate draft it here. It's either that or the Aspiring Aeronaut for him. So when do you start hate drafting versus taking a card on color?
I think it's pretty dependent. I think you just always hate draft. I think when in doubt, you take the card that's good for them.
Okay.
I mean, that's at least how I've approached team drafting. As I've gotten better at team drafting, I've found that taking the cards that would be best for my opponents is definitely the way to go. Then again, he may actually be hate drafting blue from the player on his right also. And
that's very true. But he does have to take the Llanowar Empath here. I'm a little bit surprised by that pick, but
I like that pick. I think that card is much better than a lot of other people do.
Yeah, I know you and Marshall were talking very, very highly about the Llanowar Empath, and
he's a fine man. He makes the cut basically 100% of the time for me.
I could be underrating it severely, but man, I feel like that's the noise I make when I play a Llanowar Empath. Wow, really? A super late Sigiled Starfish.
Yeah,
I guess this one that's on the wheel. Yeah.
Yeah, so the Starfish made it through the whole table.
That's a great pickup. Again, that card is just very, very solid.
Remember, that pack was very good, so the Shambling Ghoul no longer in that pack. Avarice Dragon, somebody happened to pick it. I don't know how that happened.
Potentially the player that got all of the other red cards.
Yep. And I'm willing to guess the Exquisite Firecraft is gone from this pack, too. And there's no Ravaging Blaze in the next one either.
Titanic Growth, definitely not a bad pickup. Titanic Growth fights the red creatures that Luis has passed pretty well. But again, we just continue.
I think just take a Purple Boar here.
Sure, yeah. Red playables versus a lot of nothing. Maybe just hate drafting on the Chandra's Fury. It does take care of like his Whirler Rogue tokens.
That's definitely true. Whirler Rogue, incredible in these blue-green strategies, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
When you can just give your Rock Smaller unblockability, it's pretty nice.
That feels good. And remember, he does have that Rogue's Passage in addition to the Whirler Rogue, so he has multiple ways to punch through the big creatures.
Yeah, and then he can even use that in conjunction with something like Graveblade Marauder in the late game.
Yes, yes.
Just really, really get people.
Yeah, with enough creatures in the graveyard, of course, the Graveblade Marauder, capable of dealing large amounts of damage. Fairy Miscreant, my little pet card. Please take it, Luis. Do it. Just do it. Oh, all right. I guess nobody's on the Fairy Miscreant train.
I've played it before. I need like when I have like 4, I'll play them.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, I think I might even play them if I had 3.
Yeah, maybe some way to mass pump them. Late Vastwood Gorger and a Negate. Not bad pickups here. Some more blue cards as well. All right, so maybe a little bit of a shift here for Luis. I think he might be going blue-green now as opposed to black.
Yeah, I think he's pretty solidly in blue-green at this point, but he could also just be a Sultai deck. I mean, there's no rule against drafting 3 colors, and I feel like when you're team drafting, you really need to put yourself in those types of positions. So one thing I like is that he knows the guy on his left is going to be in black, so he can always move there if he needs to, if there's cards that are too powerful that are black. He did pick up a lot of blue that pack, though. So now it's going to be hard for him to get off of the blue, to be sure.
Yeah, I count about 15, maybe 14 playables between blue and green.
Which is about where he wants to be.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think he wants to necessarily splash. He does have that Rogue's Passage. If he wants to play that, then splashing gets a lot harder.
Yeah, he would need to get some lucky Evolving Wilds here in the last pack if he wants to be playing a card like Graveblade Marauder here.
We'll see what goodies this last pack holds, and again, he's going to be passing to the left. Maybe another Whirler Rogue, that'd be nice. Sky Snare Spider would be decent. Claustrophobia is not bad.
It's a pretty good one. Best card we've seen in the pack so far.
Yeah, Freaka's Disciple getting shuffled away there. What do you think about Nissa's Revelation? I saw it earlier in one of the top decks, but I'm not too big on it.
Okay, so when I'm in deck like, again, a deck like Green-Black, I think that card is awesome.
Sure.
Super insane. But when I'm in a deck like Green-Blue and I'm not killing my opponent's creatures, but I'm returning them to my opponent's hand in most cases, it seems like I'm not really playing to a long game. I'm trying to tempo my opponent out, run them over, get the game where I can get the game.
And that makes sense.
And you know, playing a 7-drop in draft in general, when you're playing a format like this, like these games end pretty quick a lot of the time. That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah. And Luis opting to take the Claustrophobia there, agreeing with you. Another is that the third or fourth Starfish we've seen? And also a Bounding Krasis. Wow, a great pack for Luis. He might be able to wield the Sigil Starfish again, right?
I mean, it seems that way. I don't think many people are in blue, at least to his left, because they would have taken it when it was that late. This time it might be harder to wheel, because that probably means that he might just be the only blue drafter, though.
Sure. So
based on what we saw last pick.
He could also take the Starfish and try to wield the Bounding Krasis. I know in the last draft we saw Ben Stark pass Irosis champion, even though he wasn't in red-white, but he ended up wheeling it anyways. All right, so he's going to go with the Bounding Krasis here.
And I mean, it is far and away the most powerful card for his deck. The major argument there for taking Starfish over Bounding Krasis would be that Bounding Krasis may table because somebody else would have to be blue-green in order to take it over. This pack has a lot of goodies for, for Luis.
Definitely not going to hate draft anything here. Just another Separatist Void Mage quickly being shuffled to the front and center.
Yeah, also there was a Somberwald Alpha and a Jiraga Invocation in that pack. Some nice ones.
Yeah, I think you can make an argument for any of those cards there. Would you have taken the Separatist Void Mage?
I don't know. I'm kind of a Jiraga Invocation kind of guy. Like, it's an overrun effect. It's a pretty good overrun effect.
We've seen both sides of that card being played this weekend. By that I mean it's always been like a board wipe, or it's been kind of a fizzle as the opponent had some way to deal with the creatures and kind of blow the opponent out. But a few nice cards here. Conclave Naturalists. I think I saw an Unholy Hunger there, but he's just going to keep taking good cards for his deck.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that these cards also just happen to be the best card in the pack. Like, Conclave Naturalists, I think, is better than Unholy Hunger.
Okay.
Again, close, but like the fact that you're always getting a 4/4 for 5, which is a fine deal. And sometimes it's just a complete and total blowout. And by sometimes, I mean whenever your opponent has an artifact or enchantment. And there are plenty of those that are quite playable in this format.
Yeah, even if it's just a Thopter, it's great value. Dwynen's Elite, also a pretty decent pickup here. I mean, it might be only a bear, but he does have a lot of elves that he can play. Yeah,
I mean, he has like the Eva's Force Mage. Again, the Shaman of the Pack not going to end up making the cut in his deck, but definitely some elves in Luis's deck already that could potentially make an extra 1/1 in addition to just being a bear.
Absolutely.
And he wants the bear for his deck anyway, so.
A late Knight of the White Orchid going around.
And that's a really powerful card. That's a card that I imagine we will see constructed again at some point.
Luis has been pretty quickly going through the pack and selecting the card that he wants. Wonder if he's been taking deep mental notes on what's been getting passed. All right, Elvish Visionary, not a bad pickup. Evolving Wilds there.
I think the Visionary is just too much of what he's looking for.
Sure.
Very late Enshrouding Mist there also.
Yeah, we've seen quite a few good white cards going around. And remember, folks, this is pack 3, and we're just nearly finishing up here. All right, a late Farika's Disciple, too. Wow, actually, that pack has a lot of nice goodies. Dragon Fodder, Disciple, Stratus Walk. Oh. Luis in the tank about this one.
I mean, this is a pretty tough decision.
What would you take here? Would it just be
I think I'd just
Disciple?
take the Disciple. I think he has a lot of 4s, which is kind of the problem. Like, you may question, like, oh, is the Disciple even going to make my deck? But then you look at the pack, and the Disciple might just be the best card. Luis has a very real deck here, by the way.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. He's going to be cutting cards, I think, as opposed to, you know, maybe scrapping for playables at the end here. Alrighty, sideboard aerial volley perhaps, mantle of webs.
I like the Aerial Volley here, and the Deborah Champion is the best card in the pack by quite a large margin, but Aerial Volley plays extremely well as a sideboard card. I've won a lot of games by just taking those, and I think drafting sideboard cards is a little bit undervalued.
I think in a normal draft, yeah, you just slam. Wow.
Wow. Well, I think he is certainly in the right colors.
That is a very late Somber World Alpha.
Lots of 4-drops in Luis's deck, but when they're that good, you can't be too upset about it, I guess.
The nice thing is, you know, he has multiple bounce effects too, so he can kind of stabilize into the mid or late game. Alpha was very late. I'm surprised.
I also like him taking those Shamans the more I think about it, those Deborah Shamans, because he does know that the player on his left is in black. So by taking those are very strong 3-drops. I'm super frustrated whenever my opponent plays one on turn 3 on curve, because I know that he's going to get to trade a card for one of my creatures and one of the cards in my hand, and I'm going to have to slow down. And you really don't want to slow down, especially when you're the blue-green deck.
Yeah, so instead of taking a sideboard card like Aerial Volley, he's cutting a card from his opponent's deck is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, very, very nice point. All right, some last picks here. Gnarl Root Trapper. I didn't quite catch what that was, but
I think it was a Mantle of Webs.
okay. Get a nice overview of the players here in between the drafts.
So
Jacob looks like he's content with his. I can't tell, though.